You're listening to the Back Row Jet Show, part of the Back Row Network.
In stride again, Onwuasor breaks one tackle, breaks another tackle of Kindred, breaks a third tackle and takes it in. A touchdown.
Evidence is clear. It seems you live in fear of.
Put it in the hands of Marshall and they flip it to Powell. How about that one? Touchdown, Jets.
No, coach, your hands are gold.
Jones fires and it's intercepted by Revis. His first pick of the year. Revis still going. Darrell Revis down at the 3.
Now your hosts, Tom Tuttle and John Eddie Jr.
All right, gotta love some Revis highlights. That was pretty good. I remember hearing that one a while back, and now I'm sitting there listening to it again, and I liked it. I love me some Darrell Revis, except for when he was on the Patriots. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, that was bad.
But welcome into the Back Row Jets show. I'm Tom Tuttle alongside John Eddie Jr., my co-host of Fantasy Fuel as well. Well, we don't have to talk too much about Jamal Adams anymore, but we do have somebody who's not going to be playing this year for the New York Jets, and that's going to be CJ Mosley. Do you have anything to say before I talk a little bit about my feelings on the thing?
Well, I have always loved CJ Mosley. So when he signed with the Jets, I was super excited because I knew what kind of player you were getting on your favorite team, and I was super stoked to see what he could do to revamp that defense. And then you were getting Avery Williamson alongside of him, and all this stuff was starting to come together. I'm like, this is going to be great to watch. I'm still going to draft CJ Mosley in IDP leagues and fantasy football, and I didn't get to do that last year much. I think there was one league I got him in, and now this year I don't even get the chance, and I am very sad.
Yeah. I understand everything you're saying there. The biggest thing for me is that, first of all, I was torn to pieces when I heard this. First of all, he can do whatever he wants. If he feels like he needs to do that to protect him or his family or whoever that he's around, that's perfectly fine. I don't have any problems there. It just sucks as a Jets fan. You only saw him play like 2 or 3 games, and it's like, what's going on here? I just want to see CJ Mosley basically was the best defensive player on the Jets now because Jamal Adams is no longer there. So now we lost both of our best players on the defense, which does make the defense a little bit worse, enough to where we don't really know how we're going to respond without both of them sitting there. I was just excited to see how Mosley played last year or this year, because last year when we did see him, he made some really good plays happen. So it just is one of them things where you just can't control it. You understand why he's doing it, but it cuts you. It cuts you really deep, and you're just sitting there thinking, now what? You almost don't even want, it's going to have a little bit of an asterisk to it anyway with this season. So you're sitting there thinking, well, is there even a point? But if it's only going to be a few players, it shouldn't be too big of an asterisk. So even if the Jets did really well, even without Mosley, it would feel okay. But it just sucks because even if let's say the Jets do well and Mosley's not there, he's probably going to be like, man, that sucks. Yeah. He's probably going to think he did the right thing, but he's still going to look back and say, man, I wish I could have been a part of that team. But who knows? It's one of them things you just can't control. But
just to keep on that subject for a second, it felt good that the Jets went out there and got a guy like that. They paid him to come here. They paid him to do week 1 that he played last year. He was making plays, and you're like, yep, I am perfectly okay with the $15 million a year, whatever that he was making. Like, it is totally worth it. And then after week 2, he was done. So he won't play another game until at least September of 2021. And that will be his 3rd game for the Jets. And that just seems wrong.
If I'm remembering correctly, I do believe he came back one of those weeks and barely even made the field. But I could be wrong.
Could be.
I might be thinking about somebody else and getting it mixed up. But yeah, it's one of them things you just can't control.
No,
and you just hope that the replacement can make up for it. And from what I've heard, the Jets have kind of already said, well, first of all, I got that. I sent you the list. I want you to do your best of pronouncing this person's name.
Oh, I already know. It's Patrick Onwuasor.
That's not true.
It's Onwuasor.
It's not true.
It is. I've heard it.
Not.
I've heard him say it.
I've heard him say his name, and that's not Onwuasor the way he says it. And I've also looked it up to make sure I was going to pronounce this right. And maybe I'm completely wrong, but this is what the internet tells me. It's Patrick. You got that part right.
Okay.
I don't think you could have screwed that up.
All right.
But it's apparently Onwuasor.
What?
Onwuasor.
I have
There's
never
no
heard an
N.
announcer say that before.
I'm just, well, maybe the announcers aren't saying it right.
Probably
I
not.
don't know. I'm just look it up.
Onwuasor.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
Onwuasor.
Because I couldn't believe it either. It's like there's like a bunch of letters we're not pronouncing here. But anyway,
let me see if I can get it and see if somebody says it right. You keep going. I'm gonna look it up.
We don't have to call him Owasso or Onwuasor or whatever it is. We don't have to do that because he goes by the nickname Peanut. So that's easy enough to where I might just say Peanut anyway. So you have it, you said?
No, not yet. I'm looking. I'm looking.
But Onwuasor, or see, now you got me saying it. Owasso or whatever, Peanut.
Peanut.
The guy, from what I've seen so far, and just looking at stats, because I honestly didn't pay too much attention to him when he was on the Ravens, but it does seem like he's going to be legit enough to where it's going to be decent for us. And obviously there's still chances for guys underneath of him to progress and become better. But last year in 2019, he had 16 assists and 64 combined for tackles. He had 3 sacks. He obviously didn't have any interceptions. And so that's not a big deal when you're a linebacker. It's really more about, especially an inside linebacker, it's really more about tackles and whatnot. But the year before that, in 2018, he had 5.5 sacks, which I would be superb to see that happen. He did have an interception, but his tackles were down. And I'm not sure how many snaps he played that year. And I know last year he didn't play that many snaps either because he was more of a guy that played like 6 or 8 games. It wasn't really somebody who was a starter all the time. But 2017, he got 90 combined tackles with 23 assists. And he only got 1 sack, but he was on the field a little more, and he actually produced a little more when it comes to tackles. And that's kind of what you're looking for when it comes to an inside linebacker. So I don't have any real problems with him. It makes me feel a little bit better that you had somebody like this that kind of went under the radar that when the Jets signed him this year, because you were just thinking, well, who cares? We got Mosley. You didn't need to think about Peanut.
Yes.
And that's why I'm just going to call him Peanut until we absolutely
I found a
know
couple
what
of things. I found the one that you found.
It.
It's the name engine, and it's Baltimore Ravens. Got his name, and it says Owasso. I'm like, okay. But I also found a 2016 NFL Draft Pronunciation Guide.
Yes.
And this one says Onwuasor. I don't think that one's right. I don't think that one's right.
We're never going to figure it out, and that's probably why he has a nickname.
That is why he's
don't
Peanut.
Pronounce it right at all.
Well,
but,
I can play a video really quick. It looks like it's his draft introduction. Maybe we can see what the announcer says on here.
Yeah, let's see if we can do it.
Nope, that's not it.
That is just music.
That is, well, it was going to be a highlight package, and that is not what it said it was going to be. So
yeah, they do that a lot. They put music for highlights.
We had a fail. All right. We'll just go with Onwuasor, and that's that.
No, it's just going to be Peanut until we play some games.
Until you hear your announcer say his name.
We can hear the announcer say it, and then we'll be like, no, is that the real way you're supposed to say it? But I don't know. It says Owasso on some. I don't. It doesn't really matter as long as he plays well for the New York Jets. I don't have any problems there. Do you have anything else to say about Patrick on Peanut?
Peanut? No, just he's a guy that he's fine. There is nothing really exciting about him, but he is a decent fill-in, and he doesn't. I don't think he's a big liability out on the field. He's just not a playmaker that you're going to go out and get, oh my goodness, the Jets signed Onwuasor. No, nobody's going to say that.
It's funny because you see the guy's name in IDP leagues for fantasy football, and you're like, okay, this guy, I know who he is. I know how he
we
plays
know
it.
that name.
You don't think about how you're supposed to say it until you have to.
Yes.
And I was just thinking, I have to figure this out. But you knew what he was. And basically what he was one of them guys for fantasy football when it comes to IDP. He was one of them guys that you could get a couple tackles out of. And you're like, okay, that's good enough for this week. You're probably not starting him every week. But if he's a starting linebacker for an NFL team, it might change some things for some IDP leagues, but we're not strictly a fantasy football topic here when we're on the Back Row Jets show, but it does apply to the New York Jets. So we're talking a little bit of fantasy, so you get a little preview of Fantasy Fuel.
Now I did find a second website that says Onwuasor. It's a completely separate one. So we're 2-1 Onwuasor.
All right, we're just going to stick with Peanut until
I
absolutely 1,000%.
I'm going to stick with Onwuasor. I like that one better.
That sounds like some kind of dinosaur.
Not a good one either.
Onwuasor, he's coming to snatch up that whatever it is.
It's like your kids are playing with dinosaurs. Like, I got the T-Rex. Oh, does that mean I have to have the Onwuasor? Oh.
Oh, man. Well, he's going to eat some Owasso. Anyway. Now that I got my laughs out of the way, we can move on to
we can chuckle some more.
I don't know how long this episode's been, but we're obviously going to have I'm obviously nobody knows this yet, but I'm going to announce it right now. We're going to have a former Jets scout interview next week, so everybody can hear that. So this episode is going to be a little bit shorter. Maybe if it's not, I don't know if we've been rambling on about Patrick Onwuasor or Wooso.
We're 12 minutes in, so it's a little shorter.
Okay, it's a little bit shorter, but we're going to have that interview with a former scout of the New York Jets. So please keep your eyes peeled for that. It's going to be a really good talk with him, and I can't wait for it. It's somebody that I want to ask some questions about. What was it like when he was, on the Jets, and how did things pan out and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. Sure. But I have one more little item that I want to talk about. And I know we're talking about Jamal Adams again, but it came in my head and I said, I have to say this. But wouldn't it be hilarious if Jamal Adams opted out to play for the Seahawks?
Yes, you sent me that list earlier, and I'm reading down. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay, sure, all right. And I was like, oh, I would laugh just a little bit.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah,
but man, that would be such a fleece of a move for the New York Jets. We get everything out of him. Now, I don't know if there was some kind of clause into the trade that nobody really knows about. If Jamal Adams opts out, you don't get the first pick or whatever it is. I doubt it, but man, that would be hilarious.
That would be.
We got all the picks. We got their starting safety basically, and they don't even get the safety they wanted for the year.
Yep.
It would be hilarious, and it would also mean to me that the NFL is just kind of heading in a very weird, strange direction because that's a high end, very high end player. And Mosley's high end, but Jamal Adams is extremely high. He would be the talk of the town if he opted out, especially since he's on a new team. It would be a ridiculous scenario, but it would be absolutely.
We would now have to have a separate segment on the Jets show akin to this week's Antonio troubles for the Fantasy Fuel episodes. If Jamal Adams did something like that, I'd be like, you know what? He's not on the Jets anymore, but we're going to talk about the antics he gets into every single week after he screwed over his new team.
Right. And, we can still talk about Jamal Adams a little bit today because, it's not too far back that he got traded, but he's saying, that he's going to want to stay on the Seahawks for a long time, whatever it was he said.
I've got it right here. In mid-December, He said, I'd love to be here in New York. I'd love to be a part of this organization. It's my calling. And yesterday or the day before, he said, this is my calling, man. I'm here to stay, and I'm excited to be a Seattle Seahawk.
I'm sorry. What now? You said the same thing about the team you just said a bunch of really bad things about that basically made them trade you. And now you're saying the exact same thing when you're on a new team. What makes me want to believe you, Jamal? I don't believe you at all.
I mean,
I really
literally,
don't. And so
the only other similar situation has been Antonio Brown.
I have to start finding some Jamal Adams news just for a joke. Every single episode, we're gonna have something. But
we'll make it's got to be a segment that starts with a J, some word that you can make an acronym for, and
I'll
like
figure it
Jam,
out.
Jamal always mad.
But as hilarious as this episode has been, that is going to do it for us.
High quality content this week, folks.
But just if you've been listening to other back row stuff, keep listening to it. There's the Raiders, which I love to talk about, the back row network. And then there's, the Packers, I believe. And I think the Patriots finally got a team to stick around for a while, and the Dolphins. And there's a lot of
the back row Washington football team show. I don't know if they've officially changed it or anything yet. So if you're going to look it up, I believe still is the back row Redskins show until further notice. All right.
Well, you can still tune into that for now until he does change it. Or if he doesn't want to change it, he doesn't have to do whatever he wants. But, yeah, check out the Back Row Network. Check out the Back Row Fantasy Show as well. And as well, if you're checking out fantasy shows, you might as well check out Fantasy Fuel while you're at it. Please give the Back Row Jets Show a little bit of a rating if you would. That really does help us out. And I think that's going to do it. So go ahead and play it.
Patrick Onwuasor? Is that what I'm supposed to say? No, we're supposed to say.